Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another episode of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat. It is Wednesday, my dude.
It is Wednesday, my dude. And whilst we're going to have a bit of a chat in the background, I'm going to test our audio because we didn't do that before the start to see if you can definitely hear what's going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Just chill music. We good?
We good.
Yeah, we good. All right, my dude. Yeah, how are you, man? You doing good? Good day? Busy day?
Yeah, not bad. It's been I don't know what it is with me this week. I just feel like a little bit behind the eight ball in its entirety. So
need a holiday. Need a trip to the US to see some kind of punk band. That'll work if that's for you. Is that right?
Well, happily, one of my probably top 5 bands announced a New Zealand tour yesterday, so I instantly hit the buy button on a couple of tickets to go and see Hot Water Music up in Wellington in February. I'm looking forward to that.
You mentioned their name. If you hadn't mentioned their name, I would have asked you, does the band you're going to see have some kind of reference to death in their title? Because most of the ones you like seem to have, but it doesn't.
No. And as has been pointed out to me by my lovely wife, I'm on a ban from buying merchandise that has skulls on it.
Oh, stink.
Because apparently I have too much skull stuff.
Stink, bro.
And it's just one of those things that, like, once it's pointed out, I can't do anything but agree with it. It's like I didn't notice it got that out of control.
We've got a good show coming up for you tonight, whānau. We're going to have a look at a little bit of the ongoing from the working group last night, including some things that were said by Matthew Hooton, which I think are going to make us go, oh, that's interesting, including comparing Mr. Christopher Luxon to a parrot, and he gives us rationale for that, so we'll get to that. Also, I think we've got episode 6 of This Is What It Looks Like to Be Brainwashed. And since I set up the show this afternoon, we've got Labour spokesperson for finance, Barbara Edmonds, about to come on. So sometimes when we have guests, I have to set up the show a bit earlier to give them a chance to get the link. But since I've done all of that, I've also seen some interesting news on One News about discrepancies between what Health New Zealand have said and what the government said. And also, I don't know, do you remember, I mean, you probably didn't have a good experience. I know you talk about bullying at school, but do you remember at school there was always that 13-year-old who was a complete pain in the ass that would go around poking everybody and thinking it was funny. And then finally when some big kid went smack, the little kid went running off and going, no, I didn't do anything. That kid, remember that kid?
Mm.
Yeah, well, that's David Seymour. He's been in the house today, and we're going to talk more about that as well with Barbara Edmonds when she comes up. I want to show you a video. We've kind of started doing this, showing videos. I haven't watched any really of the Olympics except for the girls' rugby today where they won gold, Chewy, the sevens. But I think because Barbara's a big sporting fan, we'll bring her on and do the video with her. Welcome to the show, Barbara Edmonds.
Kia ora. Good to
Kia
be here.
ora.
Kia ora, Barbara.
You said you're a big sports fan. You may well have seen this, but I have to say the best thing about the Olympics so far this cycle that I've seen is Michaela Blyde's TikTok feed, where Michaela Blyde is obviously a very fast running rugby player, but in her school days she also represented, I think, either the North or South Island, went to the national champs as a sprinter, and she saw 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 10-time world champion, Shelley Ann Fraser-Price from Jamaica, and she reacted like this, just seeing her in the village. Right? Ready for this? This is just seeing her.
Oh, I love it.
I just saw Shelley Ann Fraser-Price.
She's crying, for reals.
Oh my god. Those are real tears. Holy shit.
Those are real tears. But it gets better, Chewy. It gets better, Chewy, because later on in the day, Shelley Ann Fraser-Price liked and commented on one of Michaela's TikTok videos. And this was that meltdown. It's utterly adorable. And I don't mean that in a patronising way. It's fantastic.
Oh my god. She followed you. She follows me.
The best one is when she goes, "We're best friends."
Oh my god, we're best friends.
It's not finished though. Gets better.
Oh, that's so good.
Read it.
Don't open it.
Yeah. I just opened it accidentally.
So for those listening, she's just been messaged by Shelley Ann Fraser Price.
And then what?
And then I should just you should say
Blink up.
I'll be like, yeah.
Please.
I don't know.
Would love to get a photo.
This is made my life.
Any, maybe look cool. Maybe
Make me look cool.
Maybe
Some star eyes.
like,
Well, that's too much. That's too much.
that's like too much.
Okay. And send.
I love that this is a group sport in
It's
itself.
not finished. It's not finished. And then we meet.
So Kiwi, eh? No shit.
Isn't that like the greatest thing in the world, though? Like, if you, I know, I don't want to be all cheesy and go, oh, the Olympic spirit, but you know, someone meets their idol or one of their idols, and it's as cool as that. And you're right, Barbara. So Kiwi, so like, we're best friends. Followed me, we're now best friends. Love it, love
Shelley
it,
Ann
love
Price
it.
even went and watched them play.
Oh,
So
did she as well?
actually- Yeah, she went and watched them play. So she was allowed into the media box and basically is like, I'm watching my bestie, Michaela Blythe, play, you know, rugby sevens. So the whole of Jamaica has now embraced our Blackfern Sevens team, who are now the Golden Girls back-to-back, baby. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know
It wasn't-
if you're Michaela Blythe, what's, you know, the gold medal or Shelley Ann Price, like basically, which is better.
She was at the last one, wasn't she? So she's already got a gold medal. But meeting Shelley Ann Price, that's like a first time, you know. And I think I'm right in saying the last Olympics were the first time the Sevens played, which means the women Black Ferns have never been beaten. I don't think at an Olympic, like there's never lost a game yet. Whereas the men have lost many at the Olympics, unfortunately. Anywho,
We need to talk about the men tonight, so.
okay. I wanted to share that tonight, and when we were talking beforehand, Barbara, you say you're watching a lot of the Olympics. I haven't watched really any of it other than that on TikTok and the girls today. And actually, to be honest, I've got the triathlon on the background. I'm feeling myself ramp up into it a bit. But yeah, that's for another day. So Barbara, we've got you here because you are the finance spokesperson for Labour. We actually talked to Kieran McElnulty last night. And I can't remember whether this was an on-air or off-air conversation, so maybe I shouldn't say it. I'll say it anyway. And he said it was really weird in the House yesterday going across the bridge, or going where all the reporters get at you. No one was asking questions about the tax cuts. Watching the news tonight, I watched One News, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched most of it. No stories on the tax cuts. The government is selling this as a really big special day for New Zealand. They seem to be the only ones saying it. No one in the public seems to be talking about it, and the media is not talking about it. What would you say to that?
Oh, sorry, what tax cuts? Like, because, rates have gone up by 9%, insurance has gone up by 14%, you know, rents have gone up by almost 5%. I think most Kiwis would be like, what tax cuts? And then even worse, if you don't have a job, you don't get a tax cut. So yeah, they've been hyping it up quite a bit. You know, they've been really rallying behind each other in question time, you know, like tomorrow you get tax cuts, today you get tax cuts. But man, the stuff that we're seeing online, people are just like, give with one hand, take with another.
Well, it's almost give with one hand and take more with the other. I played a piece last night with Christopher Luxon on Breakfast yesterday, and this is a quote, that Kiwis are doing it really, really tough. And the position we've taken here, and I wanted to put out there and ask you about it, is so if $12 a week is going to get us over that hump of not going backwards anymore, then we're not doing it really, really tough. We're a little bit behind. If we are doing it really, really tough, then $12 a week ain't going to do anything. So I've been sitting here going like, this government can't have their cake and eat it too. Either we're doing it really, really tough and they need to help more, right? Or, yeah, we're a little bit behind, we're a smidge behind, and that little bit they give back will be what we need. And it feels like they're trying to sell this, cost of living crisis, what Labor did and what we are. We're going to fix it all. Here's $7.50. You know what I mean? It just feels weird.
Well, I mean, but this is their big centerpiece for their election, right? In 2023, it was their big centerpiece, and we saw the $250 tax cuts. Well, for pensioners, it's like $2.15 or $2.50. Yeah. I've had pensioners just actually email me tonight, basically saying, I can't afford my rates. I only got a $2.50 increase through tax cuts. Can you do something about it, or else I'm going to lose my house because I'm on a fixed income? And then your prescription fees, they've scrapped that with the universality. My gosh, public transport. Any of you that got kids that used to catch public transport, it's going to cost $40 to $100 more an extra a week. So, yeah, it's basically they've cut so much, which you can kind of understand if you basically kept the stuff and then gave a tax cut, then you might feel a bit better off.
Yeah.
But they've cut so much. They haven't helped by removing the affordable water reform. So councils were in basically their hands were tied. They had to basically release their long-term plans with double-digit rate rises across the country. And so come today, 31st of July, apparently they're meant to be getting a tax cut. And it's like, well, I haven't seen it because actually I'm in deficit because everything else has gone up.
And of course, on top of that, if we want to call them their passion projects, we're going to keep saying this all term, the government's giving $3 billion back to landlords and borrowing so they can do $14 billion worth of tax cuts.
It's borrowed money. It is just absolutely borrowed money. Doesn't matter how they spin it. They say we've cut all these public services. I heard a really good quote from the chief economist of Westpac quite recently, and he said, you cannot cut your way to a surplus. And the same counter is you cannot tax your way to prosperity. But what this government has done is it's just rubbish. And I think people can see right through it, which is why nobody's buying the whole woohoo tax cut day, because it just feels really crap.
Well, that was going to be my last kind of question of this part. Then, Chewie, of course, you can jump in. I'm being very greedy here. Is that one of the things this National Party has done is they've done very well selling a bunch of bullshit, like lumbering Labor with the how 15-year-olds are doing in schools, not reminding everyone they brought national standards in 2011. But from a marketing point of view, they did very, very well because they got it. That everyone believes it's Labor's fault without question, right? Well, I don't, but you know what I mean. They did well with this one feels different. It feels like that people haven't bought into this as much. They haven't sold it as well. Do you hear a disparity between their messaging and what the public think about tax cuts in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone's buying it. I really don't. And then when you see people, because I've got social media platforms as well, when you see the comments from people saying it's a really great thing, well, you go through and you have a look at their profile, it's locked and it's a troll. So
yeah,
I haven't seen anything. Actually, one of the key things I'm hearing the most, and I even heard this at the rugby, we had the big Wellington rugby finals here on Saturday. I had a small business owner who basically said to me ages ago, he goes, I'm a National Party voter because they're better for business, but I'll vote for you, Barb. And he goes, I don't know why they need to give me a tax cut. I don't need it. And me and all the boys are like, put it into health because they can hear and you've had Aisha on with all the spin that's happening in health. So, yeah, I don't think New Zealanders are buying it.
Well, that's it. I know I said I'd finish talking, Chewie, sorry, but if you put everybody's $10 a week or $15 a week tax cut into the storehouse, so to speak, that's probably Dunedin's hospital to its maximum capacity rather than cutting. That's probably a bunch of nurses or doctors or that they don't have to do. And that $10 in the storehouse is worth so much more to the country than $10 per individual person.
Oh, and don't forget also they put aside $216 million tax cuts for tobacco excise tax, they cut that. So if you add up all their priorities, including the $1 billion that they clawed back from tobacco, unwinding the tobacco rules, it just shows where their priorities are and basically what their focus is, and it's not actually helping with the cost of living.
Yep, for reals. Chewie.
What it feels like to me is because they got that win in the election and because they campaigned so strongly on tax cuts and ordinary working Kiwis keeping more of their wages, blah, 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 that they've tied those two things together. And then after 6 months of cuts, cuts, layoffs, more cuts. Yes, we're borrowing money. Yes, it's going to your landlord. People have had 6 months to balance out all of that front loading of bullshit to tax cut day and going, this isn't worth it. And I think people have more voted for National because of that typical Kiwi thing of like, it's time for a change. But National's gone, no, they voted for tax cuts. They're happy to see the tax cuts. So we're going to call our wins now. And it's not the win that they think it is.
Mm.
Well, the most foolish thing that Nicola and Christopher Luxon did is they bettered their jobs on these tax cuts. You know, they said they were going to resign. And so if you've bettered your job on something, you better deliver it, or else, you know, you got egg on your face. They're not John Key and Bill English, who did promise it and had to renege and give tax cuts a year later. You know, they're both foolish in that respect.
I was watching, it might have even been the working group last night, and they were talking about how finance, Nicola Willis, is actually the one running health as well, because it's all about the budgets. And really, Dr. Reti is a bit of a, he'll sign his name to things, but it's actually Nicola Willis, because of how she's controlling the finances, that's basically running health as well. What would you say to that?
Today I did a speech in the House, and I likened the government today to the 14 layers of a shambles of a government. You know, you've got the Prime Minister chucking Reti under the bus. You got Reti chucking the board under the bus. Yeah. You've got 8 MPs chucking the whole government under the bus. And then you've got Nicola Willis, who was not in the House today because she's overseas. She'll probably come back tomorrow and chuck Reti under the bus too. It's just absolutely shambolic. And, you know, just for them, it's just like, you know, pull your heads. And this is supposed to be your big tax cut day, but it's all distraction on all these other issues, which is why as well, I don't think they're getting the cut through that they want. Yeah.
Anything else on the financial side of things, Chewy, you want to ask?
Oh, I'm just scanning through at the moment. I'm sure I saw a story this afternoon about how job offers to nurses, graduating nurses, have been rescinded now, despite months of them going, oh, there's no freeze, there's no hiring.
Hang on, but hang on. That's the front of house. They're only affecting the back office, we've been told. That can't be right, Chewy. You must have misread it. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have nurses leaving the country.
Isn't it a good problem to have that you got too many nurses?
Yeah.
Than you forecasted for? And you know, we'll see with the budget proactive release whether Health New Zealand actually went to the Minister of Finance and said, you know what, we're going to need a little bit more money because we've hired too many nurses, but we want to keep them in New Zealand because they've all been trained here. And so I got a message from a person called Anna in Auckland. She's just like, what is the point of me trying to finish my nursing degree if I don't have a job? Yeah. And she said, and I quoted it in the House, she said she's got friends moving to Aussie who graduated in February who are now moving to Aussie. She's just like, I want to make my family proud. I want to make my kids proud. But there is so much uncertainty. So what's the point? And that's exactly the message you're sending to what we have is the nursing shortage. We want more Kiwi nurses.
Yeah. And if they kind of start to drop out because there's no future, then we'll get this, whatever the opposite of a bubble is, a cave. Then when we get 3 years down the track, there won't be enough to replenish our stocks. And it'll be because they can't do anything about it now. So it's a different path they've taken. No, completely. Okay, I want to talk to you a bit about ACT. You were in the House today. The first question, though, has got nothing to do with that. We started up, well, we didn't actually start up a hashtag the other day. I thought we might start up a hashtag, which was going to be hashtag Where's Brooke? Is she around? Like, she used to be in front of cameras every single week and no one's seen her for like 2 months. She hasn't been like stored away in a treehouse somewhere or something. Is she still around? Have you seen her around? Where's Brooke? Hashtag Where's Brooke?
She was in the House today, but she was pretty quiet.
What's going on there? Got any theories? She's no longer in front of camera. She was in front of the camera a lot at the start of this year.
I don't know. The thing that, you know, when you go from opposition to being a minister, you realise that the buck stops with you. And you can only blame the previous guys for so long, the previous government for so long. Like, the budget was that turning point, which is basically everything now is your decision. So it's a good point you make, because I haven't seen her across the media or anything, and who knows where she's been. But today, ACT had a blinder in the House, and like I said, they threw their government under the bus.
Yep, let's talk about this, eh? So the story, as far as I go, and you've been there, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but either yesterday or the day before, ACT made a fuss about some stickers on the back of a Te Whatu Māori Party MP's laptop.
Hannah's laptop.
Hannah's laptop.
Last week.
Okay, last week. To do with, you're not supposed to have branding, you're not supposed to have this, these sorts of things. So however it happened today, Jerry Brownlee kind of went a bit gangster, it would seem to me. And I don't know if he quite went this way, but it was like, if it's good enough for ACT to complain about branding of Te Whatu Māori, then it's good enough for your branding, your ACT lapel pins, not to be there either. And this is my main question. Is David Seymour as much of a whiny little bitch in real life as he came across today on television? Because honestly, it was like the kid who been, like I said before, been poking everybody and poking and poking. When someone finally gave him a slap, sits down and is like, "Oh, it's not fair. Why are they picking on me?" So that's my real question. Is he or isn't he?
There's one rule for ACT and there's one rule for everybody else, basically. Yeah. And they can have to thank for the big storm that this has caused is James Meagher. So last week, James Meagher took a point of order about Hannah's stickers that she had on her laptop because she was reading her notes off her laptop.
Yep.
Business committee. So Parliament has a business committee, and it's with the leader of the House, the Speaker, all the different shadow leaders of the House, of the different political parties, plus the whips. So they meet on a Monday, and basically the Speaker, it's his meeting, and it's about how we're going to run the House, what's the order paper, the urgency, that sort of stuff. The Speaker today disclosed, he made it really clear at that meeting on Monday, remember today is Wednesday, on Monday, that basically to keep the political emblem, symbolism off basically within the House. Because there was a Speaker's ruling by Trevor Mallard in 2018. Yep. Jerry has basically done a new ruling. So today, when ACT went to go and, well, first of all, David Seymour went to take a point of order about something. He's got his pin on his jacket. Jerry told him off. Then another minister basically, made it really clear. If you want to be able to answer a question or take a point of order in this House, you need to remove your symbolism that you've got for your political party. So he sits down like a little kid who's throwing the toys out of the cot, sort of stewing and brooding. I've got 8 kids. I know what it's like to have plenty. And then, so then they go ask one of the ministers a question. That minister stands up, has one of those ACT pins, and the Speaker's like, "I've made a ruling. If you don't take it off, you don't get to answer." So in the end, they basically, they've missed 2 parliamentary questions. The opportunity, one of the questions was about child poverty, and as well as a point of order. Basically, they were told, until you take those off, you cannot speak in the House. So what did they do? All the toys went out. Basically, they just sat there like silent little stroppy kids like this and brooded and brooded and brooded, and then basically didn't respond. In the end, I think Louise Upston made up for her sanctioning, for missing her bill last week, because Jerry's like, is the minister from the government going to answer this question? And Louise stood up and answered the question. But again, it's just like, look, kids, grow up. The Speaker's made a ruling, show some respect. That's the ruling that's been made. Everybody else has to apply for it. What was worse, though, was the leader of the House, Chris Bishop. He was silent. He needs to back his Speaker. And basically Chippy called that out, and it was just like, oh, well, the 11 ACT MPs have just thrown their coalition government under the bus just because of a pin.
Our old mate, Bomber, has said for a long time, as soon as Winston Peters leaves the Deputy Prime Ministership, this government is done. Are these fractions within a coalition, or is this just like kids having a bit of a rumble and everything will kiss and make up literally tomorrow? Oh, I'd like to see that as a cartoon. What about Jerry Brownlee and David Seymour kissing and making up? There you go for you cartoonists out there. Like, what is it serious, or is it a bit of nothing?
I think you have to read there's something into it. You know, you don't just make a stand like that, and especially against the speaker, which is appointed by your government as the nomination for the speaker. They might be feeling under pressure because, you know, they're getting a lot of pressure and pushback from a lot of their basically the racist stuff that they want to do around Māori boards, etc., and the principles bill. So they're getting a lot of pushback on that in the community. So I think they just can't handle the heat. They're in government now. The responsibility ends with them. And I think what you'll see is, you know, you can put a wager on it whether the government crumbles next year. But when you start to see cracks like this on the daily, then you have to start thinking what's happening behind the scenes.
That example I gave about the cheeky little prick at school poking everybody and eventually getting a slap, it actually, if I approach it more maturely, I would say something like, this feels very similar to what's happening in America, when the GOP have been going on and on and on and on and on about communists and groomers and, you know, baby killers and baby eaters for 8 years. And then as soon as, you know, they started getting called weird, all of a sudden it's these guys on the left are so mean, and they compare Trump to Hitler. And, you know, it's like the guys who are doing all this poking and like using all these things, as soon as something comes back at them, they are the biggest snowflakes. They crack. They call everyone else, it's that projection thing. They call everyone else snowflakes. We don't really have that vernacular in New Zealand from politicians, but in America, you know, in the right, and then all of a sudden when they get a little prod back, they melt in the sun, Chewy. You jump in, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. There's nothing that stings more than getting whacked with your own rules. And I think turnaround is fair play. The thing with Hannah's laptop is there wasn't even like Te Pāti Māori stuff on there. It was just honour the treaty, and that was pretty much it. So for them to make this a huge issue and then throw a big tantrum about it like days after the fact it's just hilarious to me. It's debate club theatrics at best.
Yeah, but Chewy, you've nailed it. It said honour the treaty. I guarantee you if someone had a laptop that said Hobson's Pledge, you wouldn't have heard a word out of them.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
So again,
what do you reckon?
James Neger started it all with his point of order. So there you go.
Yeah. What's happening over the next few weeks in the House, Barbara? What do we need to be aware of?
Today is a Members' Day, so the Sale and Supply of Liquor Act at the cellar door that's going through at the moment. We've actually got a really good members' bill by Tracy McClellan. It's around KiwiSaver, around being clear around whether KiwiSaver is part of the package or not part, or in addition to the package. To be honest, it's a lot of stuff that the government is either basically still repealing. I know they're bringing forward the drug driving legislation that's coming forward. Really, one that's quite important is the charter schools. That's going through the select committee at the moment, that process. Mm-hmm. And I bumped into one of the unions who represents caretakers and cleaners. And they basically disclosed that one of the details in the bill is that if a school decides to become a charter school, the cleaner and the caretaker, their contract isn't automatically rolled over. So basically there's no commitment to keeping them. So, these are some of our lowest paid people. And so the union was here at select committee to basically fight that. So, there's stuff on, but to be honest, it's really hard to stay focused on what you need to do when basically you're sitting there with your popcorn, just watching the shambles happen all around you, And you're just sitting there going,
it is very entertaining to watch, sort of thing. But if we actually get serious for a second, the amount of, the government that's talking about how fiscally aware they need to be, how we're not going to be New Zealand's ATM, we will be, to waste a day in the House by refusing to take off your lapel pins is actually irresponsible to my taxes, to Chewy's taxes, to everybody, because we're paying for that. Do your fucking job. Do what you're told and do your fucking job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just a shambles. Literally. And there's also the Climate Commission released their monitoring report just in the last 24 hours. basically saying that the government's not going to meet its targets. So for me, in a fiscal perspective, I'm worried about how much we're going to be paying for offshore credits, come 2030. What's that bill going to be like? I've seen some massive estimates. So they got to start refocusing. Otherwise, they're just basically in a hiding to nothing.
Yeah. Hey, one other thing, Barbara, actually, have you got like 2 or 3 more minutes? Because we're going to cover off this. This is one of the things I didn't tease was coming up because it was an expose, an exclusive to TVNZ News talking about the financial mismanagement claims made around Health New Zealand. It's a financial conversation, so you'd be the perfect person to get involved in if you're okay with that. Let's just watch the story. It's only a couple of minutes, and then we'll get your thoughts around that.
According to the government, Health New Zealand's board was incompetent and had to be sacked.
And I have a copy of a letter that I wrote to the Minister of Health on the 19th of March, where we were starting to get information through that there were real financial problems at Health New Zealand.
Officials thought those in charge of the agency seemed oblivious to the problems.
Treasury officials met with the Board of Health New Zealand on 23 February 2024 and report the board did not seem across the detail of this issue.
But what the Finance Minister didn't tell us is that the Board of Health New Zealand immediately wrote back, disputing what they said were her unfair allegations. The letter acknowledged that Health New Zealand was under financial pressure, but said this came from Holidays Act changes and pay equity settlements, as opposed to Te Whatu Ora not managing its costs. The board
and we heard from Craig Rennie via the working group last week that a big bunch of that $3 billion actually being budgeted for this year as their increase was just used to pay all the Holiday Act stuff they had to catch back up on. So it wasn't actually a new investment in new things. It was a back pay from people. So it didn't quite look as impressive as it was. We'll just keep going. It's got about 60 seconds.
Said it would have happily discussed these financial pressures with officials, but the issue simply never came up at the meeting.
It looks like they're blaming the board for information they didn't even ask for.
The Health Minister, though, convinced the government's right.
The point she was making was that there wasn't a sense that the board was sharing information with Treasury was the point that she was making in that letter.
Yeah, but Te Whatu Ora wrote back to you and said that Treasury never raised those issues around the details of their finances with them at that meeting.
It's probably a discussion to have with Treasury, but there was that general sense that there was a challenge getting information from Health New Zealand.
It really refutes the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Health's version of events, and it suggests the board is being blamed for a mess of the government's own making.
The release of the letter comes as a former Te Whatu Ora board member, Dr. Curtis Walker, accused the government of spreading disinformation.
Is Dr. Curtis Walker correct when he says, as the political pressure has come on this government, they have been increasingly desperate in their casting about of misinformation?
Mr. Speaker, Dr. Walker is correct when he said he first became made aware of the deteriorating financial position at Health New Zealand in March.
Yet Dr. Walker also said it was because Health New Zealand had overspent on nurses and not being middle manager heavy, as the government maintains. Benedict Collins, One News.
So just to also cover off on this as well, because we've actually had Lurchify stick through a super chat, so let's read that as well. What does Barb think about the Treasury advice to Lion Wellness that Whatu Ora was financially mismanaged, but the reply from Whatu Ora was not covered off, which is the story we've just watched. Thank you for the super chat, Lurchify. So what are your thoughts there, Barb?
Oh, tomorrow you'll see Nicola Willis chuck someone under the bus for this. It's not going to be her. I've got that letter right here in my hand. Yeah. And it says, this is from the board to the minister about that letter from the Minister of Finance. We wanted to respond without delay, as in our view, those allegations present an unfair and incomplete view of the position. Basically, whether it was Treasury that failed to brief the Minister of Finance or whether it was the Minister of Health that failed to brief the Minister of Finance, it's really clear there was no ability for the Health New Zealand board to actually brief the Minister of Finance and say, actually, this is the position, we want to talk to you about it. So it's almost like they had what they wanted to do. They clearly knew they wanted to bring in their commissioner in, get rid of the board, basically do whatever they wanted to do to have full control of it, cut more than they basically, could publicly allow, create the spin. But actually, these people on these boards, like you saw with that doctor, they're not just anybody. And, you know, like one of them is the ex-Commissioner of Inland Revenue. And I worked with that ex-Commissioner of Inland Revenue. She was in charge of the largest government IT project ever that was on time, on budget, and during COVID. If you're going to basically accuse her and the rest of the board of being financially literate, it's like, well, what did you do to be financially literate now as the Minister of Finance? You know, how do you compare that with the board? So I think they've got to be really careful how many board members they keep chucking under the bus. Soon they're not going to be able to have anybody on these boards.
Eventually it'll be me and you, Chewy, on the board doing something. I don't know, maybe. Hey, Barb, it's been great.
Someone's got to give us a turn.
Joining us tonight. Chewy, you got anything else you want to wrap with about what we just had?
No, I think we've covered it off really well.
Really appreciate you coming on and giving us some time. It's always a lot of fun. I don't know if these are supposed to be fun. I think we're supposed to be like, you know, journalistically covering things, but we always have fun. So thanks for coming on again.
All good. Catch you next time.
Catch you next time. All the best.
Thanks,
Barbara Edmonds is the finance spokesperson for Labour. Right, let's just do some of these super chats, Chewy. Got some more stuff to go. Cutie Bird for $2. Thank you very much. Says, my favourite Olympic sport is political debate. Mr. Alex, haven't heard from Mr. Alex for a while with this, but gives us an update. Thank you for the super chat. Just letting any BHN viewers in the Wellington region know the Greater Wellington Regional Council has approved the Petone to Grenada and Cross Valley Link second Mount Vic tunnel. There you go. Mata on the $2 super chat. Thank you. American nurses love it here and our health system. Peter Sim for $2. Thank you for your super chat. This is talking about Seymour having his nose rubbed in his own rulings today. Turnabout is fair play. Mr. Arvids for $2. Thank you. Says David really is the worst example. It's funny. I didn't even expect that to come up. It just pops up again of a human being. Tawhiri says David gives Randall from the cartoon Recess vibes. Randall from the cartoon Recess vibes. That's a show I'm not aware of. Do you know the show? Randall? No. Mr. Arvids wanted us to ask about Māori roads, so we didn't get to that, but I thank you for the super chat. And Alex says, National has destroyed the power tool repair industry construction companies. Power tool repair industry. Probably full stop. Construction companies can't spend any money since the Te Whatu Ora builds, school upgrades on hold. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of people who would have budgeted for massive contracts who are now screwed thanks to the decisions the so-called party of business, Chewy, is all about. There we go.
While we were talking, I also found that story that I was talking about in today's Herald. Health New Zealand Te Whatu Ora apologises after nursing graduates have job offers retracted. Nursing graduates are confused and heartbroken after being sent job offers last week, and then this week having those offers retracted. That's not just like bad. That's mean.
You can imagine someone saying, "Oh, you can never have too many nurses." Well, this would be whatever the opposite of that is, thanks to that government. Well, I guess we've got too many nurses. That's what they're saying. How can you have too many nurses? Good grief.
So why would you hang around? What are they going to do? Hang around for a couple of years and hope that things change?
When there's another 200 nurses graduating, and then another, and then another, and then another.
So if we don't have enough nurses on wards, there's a couple of things that happen at that point. You take longer to get seen.
Yep.
You don't have the quality of care on ward that we should have. You don't have the coverage for nurses that are there to keep up to date with their holidays, to cover sickness, to make sure that people aren't doing too much overtime. So if you don't have those guys coming through, then the people are there, burn out, get sick, can't handle the pressure, and go somewhere else that values them. This is a cascading point of failure at this point. And think of it every time you look at your paycheck and you go, oh, cool, I've got between $2.17 and $12 worth of tax cuts. This is definitely worth it as I bleed out in an ER. It's going to cost lives. It's going to cost experience. And this government, the government of the economy and of numbers, has shit the bed in such an epic fashion that they can only be seen as economic vandals.
Yeah. All right. Hey, bighairnews@gmail.com. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to acknowledge who has sent me this or not. So I'll just say someone's just sent an email about nursing. Went with my hubby to hospital visit today, and I asked 2 senior nurses if they think things will get better under this government. Their response was heartbreaking. One said the nursing freeze was soul destroying. They had so much hope for more support for their mahi to help care for patients. The other said it's just getting worse and worse for frontline staff, from a viewer. That's through the email. You can always contact us on the email as well if you want during the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So echoing what you're saying, we are now, Chewy, going to play a couple of theme tunes. And then we're going to move into our next story, because tonight's the last night. So if anyone's done a theme tune for us, needs to be in by midnight tonight. I'm. You know what, Chewy? We've had, I think, 18 entries, so we haven't had a chance to play.
Shit.
Yeah, I know all of them. But what we'll do is we'll narrow them down and we'll put them in a folder online somewhere. I'll do it over the weekend, and then you guys can go check them all out and let us know what you think. I don't know who did these. I've specifically listed them, so I couldn't know. Let's do this one here. Here's one coming up very shortly.
Where can I get a horse?
Yeah, or
a spooky space horse.
Yeah, all right. We're just playing clips from each of them, or else we'll be here all night. This one here, we'll just play this one. Sounds a bit newsy.
Bearded man on a mission bright in Aotearoa will bring the light. News that's true with no disguise, clearing up the truth, no compromise. We're the newsmen, bold and clear. From the mountains to the sea, we're here with our beards and brains. We'll cut through the misinformation chains.
I like that. We're here with our beards and brains. Now, would that be a unique voice here, or an AI voice in your opinion, Chewy?
That sounds a little bit like an AI voice.
I mean, I guess if people are making them, they're still making them. We'll talk with people. I guess the one thing I haven't done is I haven't mind anyone kind of sign something, but I'll just make sure that people haven't just like grabbed a song off, freeroyalty.com or something and send it through, but that's obviously not. It's us. I think this one might be from the same person.
Mission bright in Aotearoa will bring the light. News that's true with no disguise, clearing up the truth, no compromise.
Nice, thank you. Don't mind that one either. It's all pretty cool. As I said, just a couple.
That tickled my pop punk gland bone.
Right. Let's try this one. I think from memory, this is a very different vibe. So I'll just hit play and we can talk.
It's a little bit lush.
I think from memory, I could be wrong, but there was someone, it might be this one, because I haven't labelled them on purpose, who said that they make music and these might work. This might be one of those ones. So it's a track that's already been made, sort of thing, but it's kind of funky. I've got visions of wind chimes,
space whales.
All right, let's do one more. I'll do one more, and then we'll call it a night for this. Here's like one last one, just to have a bit of.
And someone put in a bunch of different versions.
Yeah, there's definitely not 18 people. This could be from the same person, I think. So we might have played a couple of them.
Not going
tonight.
crazy then. That's
no, I don't think so. Anyway, they're all pretty cool, man. I mean, I don't know. It's actually, I thought we'd get like, one or two people. It would be pretty easy, but I think we're up to 18. So I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that, Chewy, but we will figure it out. Right. So we've kind of done the two extra stories that we were going to do tonight, which was ACT in the House and the confusion around Te Whatu Ora's potential overspend, not overspend. We did them with Barb, so they're good. So maybe it's time now to go and head to our favourite weekly episode of what happened last night on the working group. Working group last night had Matthew Hooton and Maria Slade. Maria Slade is with NZME on a publication called Business Desk, a journalist with NZME on the Business Desk. And she was actually really interesting. She had some very interesting perspectives, quite balanced and sort of from both sides, actually. It wasn't too bad. I'm going to play you a very quick 40-second clip because this clip sets up the next clip. So we're not going to get into this part of the debate. But this is a part where they're talking a little bit about this, and I think you mentioned it, didn't you, Chewy? $260 million to Big Tobacco in tax breaks. Yep. So this first clip is not the debate around that. It's just setting that up because then Maria Slade actually references this clip. So I wanted to play you this 40 seconds.
Turns out the sweetheart deal for tobacco, which Taxpayers Union former pimp Casey Costello cut, will
going to be able to say,
okay, this is going to do this for me, isn't it? Look at that. It's just jumped 45 minutes. Apologies, guys. We'll just go back to the start and do it again. Here we go.
Follow-up question. Turns out the sweetheart deal for tobacco, which Taxpayers Union former pimp Casey Costello cut, will cost almost $250 million, is giving Big Tobacco $216 million. While
I wonder if when Bomber speaks like that, only dogs can actually hear him. I wonder.
Public health is in a crisis, anything other than an unjustifiable abomination of public policy.
How is Big Tobacco getting $260 million?
That's for the 50% in tax cut that Casey got for their heated tobacco products that she got through last week. It will cost $216 million.
I don't see what that's got to do with the public health system.
No, not at all. So that's the setup, and I'm going to just stay on this track here because I know all of those tracks will do that funny jumpy thing, so I'll just find the next track and we'll just play with it. 1313 is where we want to go to, shall we? Bear with me. Boom. This will do. So this is the follow-up from this is Maria Slade.
Go to your point about the brakes on smokeless tobacco, for example. I don't know what the government's doing with this because have they got some really good tobacco lobbyists hanging out in Wellington? I don't know because the thing is the company, I think it's Philip Morris that makes that.
They talked about tobacco lobbyists in Wellington. Don't you mean on level 9 of the Beehive?
Yeah,
like I mean,
in the house.
And it's literally the foxes in the hen house. Literally, I think is what they're saying.
It's smokeless tobacco product. They have a monopoly in this country. Yes. So why on God's green earth would they want to pass on that tax cut to their customers who apparently will benefit from this product because it's better than smokes? I don't understand I don't understand their tobacco policy.
Matthew, you're good.
I can.
Okay, please, Matthew. Yeah.
Well, someone gave a donation.
Yeah, a big donation.
And then they
said,
here's the policy.
There we go. Yeah, they bought it.
That's simple.
Thank you.
So there's the first one, Chewy. I'm going to cue these up as we go through. Your thoughts, sir?
Oh, look, absolutely. Like this is, I'm going to keep on saying it's just corruption. We're going to call it lobbying. Costello is a tobacco lobbyist. She is married to a tobacco lobbyist. And it is so obvious that this excise tax is going towards heated tobacco products, something that Philip Morris developed, basically like VHS versus Betamax. A lot of companies went towards vaping. Philip Morris did heated tobacco products as an alternative. Is it utter failure? Unless you look at companies where they heavily lobbied or bribed governments to make that the chosen option. Like it is a corporate handout to one of the world's largest tobacco companies, and it's right fucking there for everybody to see. And she has the cheek to say that it's a fucking health measure. How dare she?
Because there's nothing wrong with like heating tobacco and inhaling it to your lungs. That's a good thing, eh? It's just like breathing.
Yeah. Oh, look, the argument around it is just mental. Like, because it's not set on fire, somehow it's just heated. The vapor, the tobacco vapors. It's just fucking ridiculous. When the vast majority of New Zealanders are on board with smoking and tobacco are bad, and we should probably phase it out because there's a nationwide benefit. There's a cost benefit. There's a lives saved, less cancer. Like, why do we need to provide anything to these merchants of death that have been peddling shit that they know is addictive and deadly for near 100 years? And they've been concealing research and they've been bribing people. And we saw through it until we let their fucking person in the house. There's too many of them. Like, why are tobacco lobbyists suddenly in Parliament? Like, it was bad enough when it was Bishop and his family business of touting for these bastards. Now we've got one as an associate minister of health. That is ridiculous.
If you don't laugh, you're going to cry at that one. I mean, honestly, it's utterly ridiculous. All right,
it is corruption.
We've been asking the question, and they asked the question last night about a couple of things. The 14 layers of management question got brought up. And also Matthew Hooton explaining how Luxon's not really a liar. It's a bit like a parrot saying Polly want a cracker. You never hold the parrot accountable for saying Polly want a cracker. That's the same as Luxon when he speaks.
Thank you. Matthew, your good friend, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, claims that there are 15 levels of management for health. Was he meaning his social media team, or is he seriously claiming 14 levels of management? And will appointing a new level of management and 4 subsections of management cut back on that management?
Well, I mean, what he said obviously wasn't true.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if
what do you mean it wasn't true?
Well,
are you calling him a liar?
The Prime Minister wasn't able to explain where the 14 managers were, was he?
It was clearly not true, and that would have been obvious to any normal person.
Sure, but the Prime Minister, however,
is not normal.
If they each had an average of 2 direct reports, 2 to the power of 14, as anyone who's done would know, that's about 16,000 people. But if they had 3 direct reports, then that would mean there'd be 5 million people roughly in level 14 of the health system. Which
almost the entire country.
No. Don't forget, a lot of those would have been nurses, and they don't count as a full person.
The quote unquote jokes made by Damien Grant in this aren't funny, and often is what he does as a tactic to get away from something. Remember when Simon a few weeks ago told him to stop shouting, and he went, "How do you expect us to get ratings?" It's a deflection thing that he does by trying to be amusing when he's not, and not understanding what his wheelhouse is. His wheelhouse is to be the neoliberal, small government, nasty piece of shit, and he seems to have forgotten that. Chewy, you want to say anything?
Or the guy that just pushes out just the most extreme libertarian point of view that absolutely wouldn't work in a world where we don't put the sick out in the snow, so we don't have to deal with them. That's his wheelhouse. But comedy, no, not him.
All right, we'll keep going.
The woman.
Is this like the electoral college of the health system?
If everyone had an average of 4 direct reports, then it'd be 250 million people working at level 14 in the health. So look, obviously it wasn't.
Did you see what I just did then? I wanted to go to Inception. Did you notice what I did? See that? Can you see what's on the screen?
Hey!
We watch you guys. Nice. We know what's going on. We see it. Inception.
of 4 direct reports, then it'd be 250 million people working at level 14 in the House. So look, obviously it wasn't true, but I think that calling him a liar is a bit rough.
Okay. I don't think I did. Who said he was a liar?
Well, Damien seemed to suggest he might have been lying or something.
Sure.
But
No, I said he said a statement that wasn't true.
Well, I don't think lying is the right way of thinking about Christopher.
Right. What is the right way to think about Christopher?
Well, it's like, I mean, if there's a person of very low intelligence, I mean, people, I think in the past, if they had an IQ under 70, they were described by doctors as an idiot or an imbecile. People like that.
Sure.
Or any creature of very low intelligence.
Sure. Moss.
Well, no, parrot.
A parrot.
Let's say parrot.
A parrot.
A parrot. I mean, when a parrot says something like,
Polly want a cracker.
Polly wants a cracker. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
14 levels of cracker.
I don't think it's meant to be. I don't think it's meant to be understood that that's literally the parrot expressing a desire for a cracker. I think that it's it's a combination of sounds, and I think it's the same with the Prime Minister and what the sounds that come from his mouth
shouldn't be thought of as answers. Just expressions of.
No, but when you talk to normal people, people IQ 80, say, or above.
Wow.
Like when I'm talking to you.
Sure.
I assume that when
Yep.
people are saying sounds are coming in their mouth, that represents some thoughts against which you can sort of assign a truth value.
Right.
But I don't think it's fair to do that to Christopher.
Okay. We shouldn't hold him to those standards.
It's not the right way of you wouldn't sort of say the parrot was lying when it said Polly wants a cracker, would you? You wouldn't. And so it's. So I just think when people say he was lying, it's ridiculous.
Now,
Wow, that was devastating.
That was very amusing. It was very funny. But as Shakespeare said, jesters oft prove prophets. As we sometimes say, many a truth be told in jest. Chewy.
Hooton's a weird dude, but I find myself agreeing with him more often than I'm not. I know he's on the opposite side of the political spectrum from me.
Yeah.
But I think he's been very critical of the direction that the National Party is going in. And I have also been very critical of that. So yeah, he's backed people before.
Oh, I was looking down and Chewy just disappeared. I was looking down at my notes. I looked up and Chewy was gone. You watch, he's going to come back and he's going to say something. I'm like, oh, push the wrong button. Wait for it. Here he comes. Hi. You pushed the wrong button.
Push the wrong button. I'm sorry. I got excited.
I was looking down. I didn't even know you'd gone. Have you finished your rant?
No, I was just saying, like, who does Hooton back these days? Has he said anything?
He says in this show how much he votes for ACT and why he votes for ACT. And I think one of the reasons he is frustrated.
Okay.
One of the reasons he is frustrated is that they're pissing around with stuff that don't matter. He doesn't care if they do or don't do a karakia in a ministry. He thinks that ministry shouldn't exist. So in other words, he's way over there. But he's also able, I guess, from his perspective, to look at it and go, this is all bullshit. You guys are all bullshitting. You're not doing it well enough. Now, I couldn't tell how much of that was also part of him jesting, but I think you'd be pretty fair to say that he is very much not a fan of Luxon, and he is very much not a fan of how politics are being run in New Zealand at the moment. That's what I would say.
So is he coming to that criticism from being more right-wing libertarian?
I think almost purely libertarian. He talked about being like a local, all about local government purist. He didn't use that term, but it was something like that. But look, this is the thing that's interesting about Hooton. I'm intrigued by him because he also will fight for logical conclusions. I find him honest, meaning I may not agree with him, but I find him consistent. And with that consistency comes honesty. And we're going to have a look at a bit of that right now because old mate Damien Grant wants to go off on, Māori wards and Māori seats and that kind of stuff. And it's actually Hooton who sort of puts him in his place. It starts though with business desk journalist Maria Slade basically saying it's highly fair to have Māori wards. And then Hooton kind of finishes this conversation with explaining to old mate Damien why it's fair which you might not expect. But that's what I'm saying. You can't quite read him, and he seems consistent. Here we go.
I suppose, but I just think it's entirely fair that
why
that tangata whenua who were here first, who are an equal partner in the treaty, should have the opportunity to have people representing their views in our democratic institutions.
Okay, but the response to that is not everybody believes that the treaty is a partnership, and that is one of the issues that David Seymour is pushing pretty hard. The idea of a treaty as a partnership goes back to 1975. That wasn't an issue before. That is something that has been created. And there are a lot of people, myself included, who think the idea of assigning separate political rights.
See, this is sort of dishonest. You know, this is where people jump around with their position and they can make one. Like what we often say is we challenge people from ACT, like David Seymour, if you want to bring this equality based on race, what about based on gender? What about based on disability? What about based on religion? Because there are also places where we discriminate against legally. And that's kind of the point that Mr. Hooton gets to. He doesn't quite explain it like that, but it's sort of where he goes as well.
They're not right.
Separate,
You're
they're
correct.
equal.
But we are putting people in different categories based on their race, and I think
or gender or sex or disability or age, voting over 18, pension at 65, or religion, only male priests. We do it all the time, but these guys only have a problem when it's based on race. But we do it all the time and they never have a problem with the other areas.
think that is...
We're not. They have a choice. They don't have to.
No, they don't. But I couldn't go and sign up for the Maori Ward.
No, but you can't vote in the Otara electorate either because you don't live there.
But those are not comparable pieces of analysis. We are saying
they're arbitrary. Lines are drawn on a map, and these people can vote here, and these people can vote there.
Those lines are not drawn up by race. The issue
exactly, Matthew Hooton. So why are you so fucking focused on making it all appear equal based on race when all the other protected classes you don't care about? You don't care that you don't get to vote in Dunedin because you don't live in Dunedin. You care that you don't get to vote on the Māori Ward because you're not Māori. It's the same. And just because we say race, it's just a category like every other category. But racists and people playing the race card like to be able to get in there and stir up their base by going, unfair, look what the brown people get that we don't get. Look, they never go, look what the farmers get, what we don't get. Look what the retired get, what we don't get. They go, look what the brown people get. And they build this tension and this fucking racial division. They're the guys who are saying, oh, it's so racially divided in New Zealand. Yeah, because you guys are the ones trying to make this huge amplification of something that's not there and is not worried about in any other protected class. And if you don't know what protected class means, it means the class within the Human Rights Commission. Race is one of them. You don't care about any of the other ones. You only care about race, which is why when Matthew Hooton says you can't vote in Otara, and he goes, yeah, but it's not to do with race. It's a group. It's a class of people, and you're not allowed to vote there because you're not a part of them. It's no different. There's a bit to go on this tree, but you should jump in, sir.
I just literally want to point out his most egregious reframing of history, that none of this mattered until 1975. Yeah. None of this mattered until 1975 because the European structures that we put in this country and our European governments roundly ignored the treaty for near 100 years, to the point where Māori stood up and said it can't go on, and the Treaty of Waitangi, or the Waitangi Tribunal came out of that, out of protests and hikois, and people standing up and going, we've put up with this for too long. We fought for this country, we went overseas and died for this country, and we're still getting treated like shit. And that is the world that ACT want to reinvent and just go wibbly wobbly woo, everybody's equal, we're all white now, unless you go in front of the courts or need to go to hospital. You know, then you're not, then you're a brown person, but you'll be dead soon, it'll be fine. And I don't think that these chuds have really realized how much things have shifted in this country and how much people see through this bullshit. You saw someone like, what was his name? Batchelor in his
Julian
Bachelor's traveling clown show of racism, being roundly hounded at every location he went to. People don't want it. We don't want a divided country. We want an equitable country.
This is where we bring up the image, the differences between equal and equitable again. Look, and I just put Nala back up there.
Till the end of days.
Because people were worried that I might have woken up Nala with my rant. So, look, she's fine. She's all right. She's still here in one piece. Right, this has got about 60 seconds to go.
Those lines are not drawn up by race. And the issue that I think that we're going to confront as a nation, I think that we are refusing to confront, is that we are the idea that the treaty is a partnership. We are saying that there is Pākehā rights and there are tangata whenua. Well, they're not tangata whenua, tangata treaty, right? So we are saying that there are separate political structures set up based on your DNA, on your blood, and I think that is going to result in very bad outcomes. And I challenge you to point to anywhere in the world where you are separating people politically.
Affirmative action in America.
There we
based
go.
on their race, where you get a positive outcome. I think the ship has sailed. I think we're going to go there.
We won't start on Israel then, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Let's not start Israel. That's right. Everything just suddenly gets tipsy bloody turvy for that.
That is an excellent example, because in Israel,
really,
you are allowed to vote in Israel based on your citizenship.
Okay, do you know what
So
I reckon?
he still goes back to race for all of that. That's the end of it anyway. And listen, if you want to have I know a bit about the story of Israel and the history of Israel, but I had an education today with Last Week Tonight. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver does 30 minutes with a sort of a truncated history of it, and now having a look what's happening in the West Bank, what's been happening in the West Bank, and yeah, really, really, really worth a watch. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Even if you are an expert in the area, it's still absolutely worth a watch. Chewy, sir, yours, sir.
I'm going to do a slight tangent here because we started talking about Palestine, and I learned a Palestine fact today.
Okay.
Did you know that more Palestinians have died since October than there are competitors at the Olympics?
Wow. That's
so there you go. That's it. And as we've discussed, most of them are women and children. So there's that. Look,
Yes.
Damien Grant bringing up the fact that there's never been any sort of successes ever by looking at equity between races is just so egregiously wrong. He wants to guide you over to apartheid South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they always want to go. Maybe if he wants to get spicy, he'll bring up Rhodesia. We are neither of those places.
Yeah.
Neither of those places had a founding document that was about co-partnership between the indigenous people and the colonizers. We have that. That is, I'm happy to be corrected here. I don't think there's another country that has something like that.
Mm.
You know, and it was the tail end of English colonialism, and you know that's what they reached. And these guys see that as some sort of threat, because to them it is. It's always this thing with racists. They think if they adjust the scales a little bit, then European people will be treated the same as Māori people were. If they give up even a fraction of control, a fraction of say. Like here in Dunedin at the moment, one of my favourite councillors, Lee Vandervis, is under censure because he doesn't want to participate in any sort of interaction with mana whenua. Doesn't understand it, doesn't see the point in it. Everything's in te reo. Why would I bother? You know, I don't want to interact with these tribal things. And someone's called him out for being an old racist, which is very, very true. And this is the thing. He won't move from his position to try to get closer to understanding why it's important, understanding where he stands in local government in this country where the the treaty exists, he won't move. He was a fan of Julian Batchelor, and he doesn't want to move on this. He is someone that is proud of his Dutch descent, of which there is nothing wrong. But he won't see the history of this country, and he won't move an iota. And when it comes up, he reacts defensively and offensively. And there are so many local body politicians and mayors and so many people up in Wellington that sit in the House that have similar views. They lack understanding, they lack context, they don't know their history, and they don't understand why this is important to people. And it's not just brown people, it's people like me, it's people like Pat, it's people like you in the chat that need to tell these guys that this is important to us, that we don't want the erosion of the Treaty of Waitangi. We don't want a reframing of the principles of the treaty as a backdoor to pissing Māori off, fucking them around, and eroding the advances that they have made through bloody combat with our structures over the last 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years. That's why people are pissed off. Nobody likes being pushed back out of the room.
Yeah. Even if you came in second and then your friends came in and you had more people, those people still don't like getting pushed back out of the room. Yeah, very good, Chewy. This is completely off track now, but just because it's on in the background.
Sorry.
No,
No,
it was
sorry,
good.
everyone.
It was good, mate. I was just going to say, for you people who are into the Olympics, it looked like Hayden Wild possibly is about to win our second gold medal. He's running, I don't know how long it's got to go, but he's in the triathlon running right now, and he's got about a 200-meter lead over it. I don't know whether there's 10Ks to go in this or there's 100 meters. I got no idea. But it looks like if things keep going this way, for those who are interested, might get another gold medal. Do you want to do the super chats? Because then we've got the 1600th installment of this is what it looks like to be brainwashed, which you're going to enjoy, Chewy. You can do the super chats.
Fantastic. Okay, what have we got here? Mr. Arvid said, I get the jokes thing, I do that, but then again, I'm not a quote-unquote political commentator or a twice convicted fraudster. Yes, we need a larger sample size of convicted fraudsters to see if that's just a trait.
Yeah, it could be.
Tawhiri says, Nats cut the living, not the cost. In the coal?
Yeah.
Cost of living crisis. Yes. Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
Peter with the $2 super chat. Right wing and comedy don't go together. There is a lot of discussion about this.
It's true as well. You think about all the biggest comedians in the world, very few of them are right wing.
Yeah, like a lot of people bring up the most successful right wing comic globally that I can think of is Rob Schneider. And even the right wing don't like him anymore.
Yeah.
Anna Houston is on to me. I do rant for money. I'm glad that we've been able to put this on YouTube. It wasn't working when I was doing it in the streets.
He used to dance for money, so this is better. Trust me.
Yeah, ranting and dancing.
Yes,
really good. And this is going back a little bit to us demoing the songs. Kiwi Skirt. Not happy, Pat and Chewy.
We're in trouble.
You need to exclude the AI songs from the competition, or we kick the AI song we already have.
That's true.
We were only considering a new one to replace the AI. Not liking this comp so far. Hey, look, there are good options. People are going to be able to have their say on it. We have a delegation and a binding caucus agreement that they will filter through.
I think that's definitely one of the considerations, though. And I guess ultimately Chewy and I will decide which 5 or 6 will go up. And I actually kind of agree with the Kiwi Skirt. Now, I guess I'm not 100% sure what isn't AI. I think we've got a bit of an idea. So maybe I'll have to do a bit of work over the next few days to find out. But yeah. I don't disagree.
Because sometimes heavy auto tune can sometimes sound a lot like AI. So
and remember,
we'll
we're doing this for a bit of fun for us, but also to support a local artist. Now, if a local artist has made that music track altogether and then put an AI voice on it because they can't sing, but they've done all the music, then that's different again from just typing lyrics into an AI system, clicking rock and letting it go for it as well. So we'll talk it through. I'll talk it through.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Can I have a wee tangent? Anna Houston, not a super chat, but still worthy. Chewy has space on the brain. Yes, I do. I want to show you an example. When I was going on about space cowboys and stuff like that, this is what I had in mind. So that's the poster for the band I went to see in Colorado at the start of the year. That's very much their vibe. Spacey Western stuff. I love that poster.
My tangent now. I'm just being told off left, right, and centre. Not good enough, Pat. Fair enough. You have to remember, Kiwi Skirt's kind of in charge here. So
that's why she's got that little spanner. She's going to come around and hit you with it. Yeah.
I'm sure it will all work out, and not everyone will be happy. I'll just say that straight away. You won't all be happy, and you won't all be sad. And some people will be going, you should play the old one. And otherwise, people will be going, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And that's what typically happens in this world. If you come on and do a show that you're getting equal kickback from both sides, I kind of feel like you're doing your job. All right.
That's why I got into this, to make nobody happy.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Especially we don't want to make ourselves happy. I think this is volume 6 of This Is What It Means, looks like to be brainwashed. I'm going to show you a clip from David Pakman's show. David Pakman, a lot of you will know him because he runs in similar circles when it comes to his political outworking. If you have a look through the catalogue if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the podcast that I did with David a few years ago. He's a lovely guy, and he's hosting Man in the Middle is Destiny. Man on the right is, what's his name? Prager, Dennis Prager. Now, who is Dennis Prager? Dennis Prager is like, I was going to say he's like the Bob McCoskey of America, but he's not, because he's successful, he's wealthy, and he's got skills. He actually started up a university, I think, called PragerU, and he's been a broadcaster for a very long time.
Fantastic shit show.
And so what Pakman has done is he's hosted both Destiny and Dennis Prager in a debate. Now, the debate was around politics. And about 2/3 of the way through the debate, Dennis Prager goes, can I ask Destiny a question? He goes, yep. And he started asking him about what is a woman. It's like completely irrelevant to the conversation. And then what is a woman delved into, let's talk about COVID. And this is where we're going to pick up on this. And it's actually not it's not even 2 minutes. It's 90 seconds, right? I'm going to play it for you. And why I'm going to show you that this is what it looks like to be brainwashed, because this is a classic gish gallop. And for people who don't know what that means, lots of facts being thrown out and not enough time to fact check them. We will then fact check what Dennis Prager says to show you what it looks like to be brainwashed. So what we're watching this for is to watch Dennis Prager demonstrate what it looks like to be brainwashed. This conversation is starting off on... I'll leave those notes out there. So that's what they're getting into conversations around COVID and lockdowns and mandates. Like 2.5 years later, they're still going on about it.
Because the CDC is in cahoots with Big Pharma and lied to the American people about masks, about distance, and about lockdowns, and ruined a whole generation's lives because of the lie that lockdowns were necessary for kids. Sweden didn't lock down one day for kids, not one kid died.
Whoop, okay. So this is what it looks like to be brainwashed. Sweden didn't lock down and not one kid died. Here is the number of coronavirus deaths in Sweden by age groups. Under 9, 20 died, 10 to 19, 12 died. So you could say very few died, but statistically speaking, that statement is factually inaccurate because children died.
Still more kids. That's still more dead kids stacked up than you would ordinarily want to see on
So-
any given Tuesday.
Straight away, his statement, and remember, sometimes we like the black swan theory, and the black swan theory goes, all I need to do to disprove the statement, all swans are white, is to show you one black swan, right? He said no kids died. And sadly, I just showed you about 30 kids in Sweden that died. But this is what it looks like to be brainwashed.
That you defend the CDC, the NIH, and the Democrats, and I mean, for that matter, any Republicans who supported lockdowns, it will not be something you will be proud of when you
I almost expected him to say, not on my watch. That's what it felt like should probably come out there.
look back at your career.
Yeah, and the entire world was all in cahoots for all the people. You point out Sweden, compare Sweden's death rates to every other European country, even the other Scandinavian countries that did enact lockdowns, and more people died in Sweden.
I have compared them.
Okay, then you know that Sweden fared about the worst of any of those countries.
Only if you compare them to Scandinavia. And Finland has announced that it would do exactly what Sweden did if it ever happened again.
Okay, this is what it looks like to be brainwashed. Let's show you the facts of the figure. So he said only if you compare it to Scandinavian countries. We have the graph here of Scandinavian countries. There it is there. The blue dots are Sweden. So that's what it is compared to Scandinavian countries. So this is the death rate. You can see how bad it is. But Dennis Prager is saying it's only bad compared to Scandinavian countries, not the rest of Europe. Well, here's the rest of the world. And Sweden comes in out of 230 odd countries and territories at 35th worst in the world. So yes, the facts, and this is death per 1 million people, so it's like for like. So yes, compared to the rest of the world, Sweden did very, very badly, but that doesn't matter because this is what it looks like to be brainwashed.
Were wrong in locking down their students. If you're on the record as defending nearly 2 years of lockdowns of students, and
how did this come to just lockdown of students? But the lockdowns affected more than just the students, right?
Lockdown of students.
Okay, because you said that like 3 times.
Egregious because kids were hurt more than adults were because of the lockdown. That's why
I'd like to cite your source of that information, please. Please cite your source.
I'm noting kids. Sure. And because it was particularly irrelevant because kids were not dying of COVID.
Other than those ones that we just showed you through the data.
Whereas old people were.
Sure, but the issue was that teachers tend to be older people and they were the ones that were worried.
Yes.
Whether or not the lockdowns were...
No teacher died in Sweden.
Whether or not the lockdown...
No teacher died in Sweden. That there is what it looks like to be brainwashed.
Big swing, isn't it?
Because no teacher died in Sweden. Now, this is about the original guy, I can't say his name, Ludvigsson, who was the person who put out the information as to why they shouldn't lock down. He ended up being wrong. There was a whole bunch of pushback from him. Here's one of the paragraphs in this article, which is in the Science magazine. Critics slammed letter in a prestigious journal that downplayed COVID-19 risk to Swedish school children. So this is about the risk to Swedish school children in particular. The latest example is a research letter published online by the New England Journal of Medicine on January 6th that looked at severe disease and deaths among children and teachers in Sweden between March and June 2020. But of course, the facts don't really matter because this right here, that face right there, is what it looks like to be brainwashed. Doesn't matter one iota. And that's my very short version, Chewy, today and tonight of this is what it looks like to be brainwashed. And then we do this. Sorry, I'm back. So it's fascinating to me that they're still doing it. Like these people are still going and like the Gish Gallop thing is really hard. And we've done this before when I showed you a video about myocarditis and it took me 1 hour and I said I'd give this 1 hour. In 1 hour, I debunked about the first 40 seconds of a 6-minute video. Because it takes time to debunk them. That probably took me 20 minutes today, not that long. But Destiny and Pakman obviously didn't have the data to hand to negate him. But of course children died in Sweden. Of course teachers died in Sweden. They'd be the only country in the world then where teachers didn't die. And of course their result was terrible compared to the rest of the world. It's very obvious. But white hair, round mouth, going red is what it looks like to be brainwashed. Volume 6. Chewy.
Never trust a man that is the same color as the ham that you get in a prepackaged sandwich.
Is that official? Like, is that on a t-shirt somewhere? We've got to pay for that?
That should be on a t-shirt, I feel. Yeah, just isn't that weird? Just like laughably easily provably wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like no one would hold Sweden up as a COVID success story. They were stacking up old people like they were firewood because they wanted to keep their cafes open.
Yep.
It was unhinged.
Yep. The other thing about those numbers, and it's really the same the rest of the world, what's happened, I'll just go back to that graph. See this last part here, right? Yeah. The rest of the world, basically, this is like if you looked at New Zealand, it would be the same here, but these two graphs would be flat. Because once everyone got vaccinated, right, and yes, we all know that past the original version of COVID, the vaccination kept you out of hospital, didn't stop you, but they all kind of ramped up there. So our New Zealand's model in that kind of fourth and fifth wave matched the rest of the world, but we were flat through the first 2 or 3, which gave us time to get vaccinated. But you can see here, so almost ignore that one, the third one, because that's the same for everyone. But these first two, you can just see, look, this is when Sweden didn't lock down and there was no vaccine. That's what happened, those first two.
This is why I love hindsight, right? So we had Susie Willis and Toby Morris doing that cartoon series about flattening the curve, and this is the reason why we're doing it, and all of that sort of stuff that was picked up and used in other countries as well. It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I also remember from COVID something that was very, very on the ball is that remember people will start complaining that we didn't need to do this because nothing bad happened.
Because they were locked down.
And Sweden is your example, and you could say looking at the other Scandinavian countries, but you can look at any country that had a softer approach to COVID and their death rates.
Yeah.
We had nothing really to complain about. It was this massive countrywide reaction, and then nothing really bad happened.
We opened up after the first wave went through the world. We opened up. No other country did. We did. We were going to rugby games. Remember, around the world are like, look at them in New Zealand going to a rugby match with 40,000 people. It's like, yeah, because and one of the internal ironies of this place is going to be all those boomers, many of whom are still alive, thanks to the people like Jacinda Ardern, then got the pip because they weren't allowed to get their coffee and they voted them out.
And they spent too long on the internet.
And now it's all downhill.
I tell you what,
20,000 people. Research says 20,000 lives were saved in New Zealand because of that lockdown and that way that New Zealand handled COVID. So sorry, they win.
If I was Prime Minister and this happened again,
nationalise it.
God help us all. God help us all. No, I would cut the fiber optic cable into this country. It's just for our own good. Like, not only are we closing the borders, we are going dark. We'll just find out how everybody else got on afterwards.
The Olympics, Wild is still in the lead, but it looks like it's only got like about a 15 or 20 metre lead now. So I have no idea how long this race has got to go. But if you are interested in it, now that we're wrapping up, you can leave. You're allowed to leave if you want. You couldn't do it before, but you can now if you want.
I have a little bit of Olympic stuff that I want to talk about.
Wild was just overtaken.
Surprise you.
Yeah,
that might surprise you a little bit. So there's a little bit of a tradition of Olympic teams having commemorative pins that competitors swap amongst themselves, kind of like, hey, look, I met these people, and you know, it's trading, it's fun. Some of you might be aware that Snoop Dogg is one of NBC's official representatives over at the Olympics, and he's having a fucking great time. He has his own pin that he's handing out to people, and it is glorious. I want you folks, if you haven't seen it, prepare yourself. Look at this.
I win the pin game.
Snoop Dogg is the man, and I believe that he's commentating on some events. I haven't seen any clips of this. I've seen him commentating on nature documentaries. I assume it's the same. Amazing. Love it.
Amazing. New Zealand got a silver. There you go. That's that wrapped up as well. All right, team. What is it tonight? Is it Wednesday night tonight?
It is Wednesday, my dude.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see you tomorrow night, team.
And sure, pick up the news. Harry style, keeping it loose. New Zealand, where the politics play, they bring the truth every single day. Talking about the mess all over the land. They shine a light with a mic in their hand. No time for cheese, just act straight up. Plan and shoot.
Hey, Chewy. We forgot some super chats.
Yes. Oh, we forgot some super chats. We can't do that.
No, we can't do that. People won't notice us, eh?
So smooth.
Citizen Gold for $5. Thank you for your super chat. We have to make these things fun. Listening to interviews like this when one or more talking heads are crying just isn't entertaining. That's what we talked about with Barbara. Nick says he was late. We were late as well. We have to pay a super chat for being late with the super chats, don't you think?
That was my fault too, by the way.
Yeah. You've done the Kiwi Skirt one about telling us off, not being happy. And you've done the Anna one as well. Loving the rants. Here's some dosh.
Yeah.
So you haven't got rid of the ones that we have done. Peter, right wing comedy, you've done that. Nats, the cuts, done that one too. Oh, this is part of the problem. Planet Walk. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to finish a theme song about the nurse stuff. I believe nursing registration expires after not working for too long. Bill wants to laugh at Anna. More rant dosh. And Mr. Arvid says, not the internet, I need it. Just ban Facebook. Oh, there you go, Chewy. If you just ban Facebook, that might be the answer.
And Twitter.
Yeah. Now, that was seamless. No one will know.
From the Cape to Bluff, no place too far. They expose the truth and raise the bar. Politicians tremble at their mighty voice. Pat and Chewy, they'll make the right choice.
I believe they didn't notice, Chewy. Apparently, it was smooth as butter.
Industry
this
professional.
Is what professional broadcasting looks like. Nailed it. I know. Look at us, eh?
So
and
good.
just think, all those media companies that want our content, they'll be knocking at the door tomorrow morning. All right, team. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Barbara Edmonds, for coming and joining us and having a bit of fun. I guess we will look forward to seeing you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News, Chewy.
Mā te wā.
All right, team.
Fairly
Hooroo.
well.
See you soon.
Cheers, man.